Hey, what's up, everybody? This is indeed the E-Man, chilling like a villain, like Bob Dylan. Keep it on low with some double stuff. Oreos. Glad everybody's here. Just waiting for my guest to come in, and I hope everything's fine. Super rainy day here in Rock Hill, but I even got caught in the rain. Made it through. Today's a special show. Waiting for my guest to come in.
This is Judd Winick, who was a part of season 3 of The Real World. He's a artist. He's just a Renaissance man. He does a lot of stuff. He's had his own Cartoon Network animated show, and just a pleasure to meet you, my friend. Thank you for coming on the Special Delivery Show.
Well, thank you, Emmanuel. It's good to be here. Let's first house cleaning, housekeeping. Can you hear me okay? Can you see me okay?
Oh yeah, perfectly fine.
Good to go.
Yes, sir.
And again, happy to be here, and I appreciate you inviting me on.
Hey, I thank you, sir. Look what I got right here. Boom. Yes, sir. I just read the first book, and I really dig it. Like Superman meets Short Circuit, you know?
Oh, yeah, right on.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
it's Superman is one of the obvious influences. There's a bit of Iron Giant in Hilo. There's a bit of E.T. in Hilo. There's a bit of Astro Boy.
yeah.
But for sure, Superman, right down to the Superman colors. So for sure, yeah. I'm glad you're digging it. Thank you.
Yeah, man. If you could just tell folks like how did you get your start in like writing? Because I'm a writer myself.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you get your start with that?
Well, and I'll try not just to talk for 20 minutes straight.
So good.
I always wanted to do. I've always been a cartoonist. That's what I wanted to do when I was a kid. And what I wanted to do is do comic strips, the ones that you see in your daily newspaper. Comic strip I fell in love with was Garfield. And when I got a little bit older, graduated up to Bloom County, which was fun. That I even thought about like doing capital W writing. I think jumping ahead a bunch. I was doing I was on the for those who are playing at home. I was on season 3 of The Real World back in 1994, so a mere 26 years ago. And my roommate on the show was a young man named Pedro Zamora, and Pedro was an AIDS educator and activist who passed away not long after we finished filming the show. So jump ahead a couple of years. My girlfriend at the time and now wife, Pam Ling, who was also on the show, we wanted to keep Pedro's story out there. Wanted people to know what it was like to know someone who was living with AIDS, what it was like to live with someone like Pedro, and also just tell his story. So we spent a couple of years lecturing. We went around the country. We would talk to high schools and colleges. And after about 2 years, it just got to be hard to get up over and over again and tell people his story and talk about what it was like to lose him. It just got to be really just too emotionally draining. So I stopped. And somewhere in there, I got syndicated. I started doing a comic strip. It was my life's dream. And I also got it in my head that I still wanted to keep telling Pedro's story somehow. So for the very first time, I wanted to write an actual story, not just 4 panels and a joke, which is what I've been doing most of my life. So I sat down and I tried to do a story the only way I knew how, which is a graphic novel. So it took me about 2.5 years, and there's a lot of different machinations of what it looked like, but it finally came out to be like a 250-page comic book. And when I was done with that, that book became Pedro and Me. That was my first book. And when I was done with that book, I realized, oh, you know what? This is the kind of storytelling I want to do. I always thought I wanted to do comic strips, and I was actually syndicated. I sort of, I was there in the big leagues, and it was fun. But when it came down to it, the first story I told was Pedro. And I owe him that too. I mean, I owe him so much, but he helped me become a storyteller. So the first big story I told was his, and after that, it's like, you know what? This is who I am. This is what I do. So long answer to a simple question. That's how I got started. And I guess to beat any young writers out there is, you want to write, you want to make stories, go ahead and write and make stories. You just got to go ahead and do it. And start from someplace where you love. Start from something that's important to you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so what's really interesting is this: your fishbowl poem, right?
Yeah.
Where you're talking about how the roommates to be are like fish, and they all have different personalities, and they should swim. What's interesting is every episode of The Real World, they had like a fishbowl logo with the MTV logo in there. Did you have anything to do with that?
No, no. The fishbowl thing was me being a little bit of a wise guy in the sense that I knew like the whole idea of The Real World is a little bit like a fishbowl.
Right.
The idea is that, we're all the fish swimming in there and people are looking in on us. We've got this giant fish tank, and the logo of Buna Murray, it was their first big show. Buna Murray Productions, who the producers who did The Real World, was a fishbowl. So I knew by doing this fishbowl poem, it's like, I'm sure I'll get it on, if I'm sure it'll make air if I do a cute little poem about that. So that was my intention. Actually, I want to do something that was kind of sweet and fun for us, but at the same time, I'd get it on TV. That'd be kind of fun too. So they did not get the idea from me. I got the idea from them. And floating around somewhere, I think I have it on my computer somewhere. Maybe I'll post it tomorrow. I did an illustrated version, which I gave to my roommates before we left. So on the last. Yeah, so like the last night before we moved out, I gave them a copy of the fishbowl poem, but with little drawings in it.
Hey, just want to say real quick, shout out, my best friend Juan is in here and my sister Jackie's in here. So hey, how y'all doing?
Cool. How you doing? Welcome.
And then welcome everybody else too. I wanted to ask you too. Okay. When I watch the show now, because I have a different perspective versus when I was like as a kid living at home watching it, because I hated Puck. I couldn't stand him.
Right.
And now it's different because I'm older now and I've lived with roommates and so on and so forth. And I always refer to this really great DC animated movie called Crisis of Infinite Earths, where I feel like every person that you meet is kind of a reflection of what you could have been, right? And I feel like what everybody has a little bit of that in them. Like sometimes they just don't feel like doing anything. They just don't want to wash their hands or something. But still, to this day, I cannot look at a bowl of Rice Krispies the same way because the way he ate it, it really grossed me out. But like what is something?
You're not the only one. Yeah.
Did there have to have been more than one meeting about him? Was there more than one meeting about like this guy got to go? Because, I mean, the stuff that he did was just unsanitary. And then he was really stubborn, too. Or was it just that one meeting?
No, there was more.
Okay.
And to keep it quick, I mean, one thing is that they film us all the time. They shoot about 70 to 90 hours a week. And they use 22 minutes and 30 seconds. That's the show. So there's 13 episodes. And so a lot doesn't make air. And with Puck, they wanted to be a little more generous here and there. So what all told, what was going on with him is that putting aside like bad hygiene, which wasn't really the important part, he got really incensed about the idea that he was the star of this show,
right?
And we really weren't looking at this as a show. I mean, we knew we're on television. They're following us around the cameras all the time. We're totally aware of that. But what was happening is every time we're interacting, we're doing stuff, if Puck were to come in, he comes in and has to draw focus. He has to interrupt, make it about himself, talk about what he's doing. And that in and of itself was a little annoying.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the problem. What started to happen is that I think we all started to push back a little bit on that idea. Like, this is not just about you. We're all living here too. And every time we push back, and it started to become deeply unpleasant. He also had issues around racism. There was issues around anti-Semitism. And right there at the end, some of the women that we were living in the house with felt unsafe. Without going into too much detail about that. But so it wasn't just that he was gross to live with. I think we could handle that. But it just became just deeply unpleasant. And
Yeah.
like, we're just living here. And this is stressful enough. This whole thing is hard enough to do without us doing that. And I think going back, we were going to have this meeting where we're going to talk to him about it and say, listen, you either got to like ease up, just calm the F down, ease up, or we're going to have to ask you to leave. And we thought that, Pam and I, who would later become my girlfriend, then my wife, Pam, we were the two people who were saying, like, this will be fine. He'll listen to us when we say, like, this is it.
Right.
We were the ones who's like the grown-ups in the room saying, no. He's gonna give in to this and realize that. We did not expect him to lose his damn mind and tell him, like, no, I'm gonna make it worse. And then for Pedro to say, like, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna leave, and then it's like, oh, okay, forget it. He's got to go. So that was kind of it. But all right.
But the short end of this, but what you were saying basically is this, like, once Pedro was like, hey, he has to go, he had to go.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I think what I was getting at there is, look, it's been 26 years, and looking back, what was important about the show was Pedro Zamora, and a lot of folks still want to, like, talk about Puck and throwing him out and whatnot. It's like, yeah, you know what? All told, that wasn't a big deal compared to, like, what actually happened. We lost Pedro. Pedro passed away, and honestly, for Puck, us kicking him out of the house was the best thing for him. It just didn't work out for him later. He got to be the rebel. He got to be the guy who was too cool for MTV. Then they hired him as a VJ, and that didn't quite work out. Yeah, didn't quite work out. But again, looking back, there is a bigger story that we focus on when we look back, and that was Pedro.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and doing my responsible for one of my favorite DC animated movies, which is Batman Under the Red Hood. Now, I always flip-flop. Which one is my favorite? Either Flashpoint or Under the Red Hood. It's always something. Now, it's a really great story, and I wanted to ask you, like, why do you think? Because it's really interesting with Jason Todd, because back in the 80s, of course, you know as well as I do, he was voted to be killed. You know what I'm saying? And so for him to have this resurgence, why do you think?
It's entirely my fault. This is something I did. I think it's 10 years at this point. So many moons ago, when I got my chance to write Batman, that was my story pitch to my boss Dan DiDio and my editor and boss Bob Schreck. Said I want to bring back Jason Todd for real, and I pitched them the story, and they dug it. And what I liked about the idea about it, and for those playing at home who don't know what the heck we're talking about, I'm going to catch them up real quick. So there's Batman, who you've heard of. And so the second Robin of Batman and Robin was a character named Jason Todd. Yes. And Jason Todd was murdered by the Joker. Honest to God, he died. And we won't get into the whole thing where they ended a comic where they let the readers vote. Call this phone number and he lives. Call this phone number and he died. And the readers voted for him to die. That was 30 plus years ago, I guess. Longer even. 35 years ago. God. So when I took over Batman, I wanted to bring him back from the dead. And what I dug about this story and bringing him back as kind of an anti-hero and a villain is that I just saw this as like this big opera. It's, Jason Todd had always represented Batman's greatest failure. That he let Joker murder Jason, his not his sidekick, but his surrogate son. And it was his greatest failure. So I sort of felt like we get to keep that. It still gets to be his greatest failure, but we're going to make it worse. He's going to come back, and he's going to come back wrong. Oh, yeah. He's going to come back as, this vigilante criminal, and everything that Batman ever taught him, he's going to use against him. And Jason's idea, he took on the persona of the Red Hood, which used to be Joker's persona. So he's like flipping the bird to Joker. And I just saw this as this, 200 miles of broken road. I dug it. I dug how sad it was, how tragic it was. I knew what the ending of the arc was going to be. And I was thrilled that they were going to let me do it. And then, jump ahead a bunch of years, I pitched my story arc to Warner Brothers Animation because I knew they were looking to do another Batman animated movie, but they're looking to do something with a little edgier. That was a little edgier. This is right after the movie came out.
Right, of course.
So Chris Nolan's Dark Knight. So I pitched them that, and I was thrilled that they let's do it. And so I got to write the script, and it was great. I mean, I really love the fact that I got to tell the story in a comic. We got to do it in a movie, and and Red Hood Jason Todd is still out there running around. He's in other series. He's in video games. There's rumors floating around that he's going to be in the movies. And right now he's on the Titans. Show.
So, what movie is the true catalyst for the superhero explosion that we have today? Which movie do you think really set it off?
Oh, well, it's got to be Iron Man. We could argue about it a lot if you want to. But, I mean, when I was a much younger man, there was Tim Burton's Batman. But then, things kind of, fizzled out quite a bit. Then there was Iron Man. And Iron Man was a bit of an accident in the sense that I don't think anyone thought it'd be that big.
No.
I can tell you some folks over at Warner Brothers, I've heard tell, were very, very surprised when Iron Man exploded. And they want to know, what the hell is an Iron Man? And they said, well, he's this big Marvel character. No, he's not. He's not a big character.
Not at all.
Spider-Man, Hulk, I've heard of these characters. What's Iron Man? It's like, where's art? And I think right then and there, Warner Brothers also is when they decided to kind of kick it up a notch as well. Because, I think they saw this as Iron Man as, they're not, film executives aren't necessarily big old comic fans like we are. We see Iron Man as a character, but he wasn't as mainstream.
Oh, no.
He wasn't, he is now. I think he was kind of considered a bit of a B character. And for him to explode in that way, so, that's when Marvel went all in. Then Disney bought Marvel, and then boom, boom, boom. That's, I think that, honestly, that's kind of what, kicked it off. But, I'm happy to argue about it.
Well, do you
have another opinion, sir?
I do. I really think that, to me, Sam Raimi's the first Spider-Man, I think that really set it off, only because that was the first movie to make $100 million at the box office, and it wasn't Star Wars. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm, and I was there at the theater, man. That lobby was so full, I couldn't even get through. You know what I'm saying? So I think Raimi's Spider-Man, to me, got studios is like, wow, we can make some real money with these movies. People say Blade, and I think Blade was a good starting point. But I think
Blade's an excellent movie. Diminishing returns with each one, but but great. No, but Spider-Man, there might not have been an Iron Man if not for the first Spider-Man.
Yeah.
If you want to get down to it, again, sort of like I thought. First Spider-Man was great. The second Spider-Man was amazing. Third one, I think everybody who made the movie and saw the movie would say that kind of got away from us a little bit. There's a lot going on in the third one. But by then the ball was probably rolling. And that's probably when they were talking about, Iron Man at that point.
Yeah, I think Marvel took a lot of big risks, man. Because like you said, Iron Man was like a C-lister. I knew who he was. But I was like, back in the 90s, as well as I do, Spider-Man and 90s X-Men was it. Even at the end of Muppet Babies, you see the Spider-Man logo. You know what I'm saying? So it's like
easily it is. When you thought of Marvel before all the movies, it was the X-Men and Spider-Man, and that's what we knew. Probably the Hulk a little bit, the TV show.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Who's your favorite X-Men? I'm just curious.
Well, my favorite growing up was Wolverine. I am 51, and some of the very first comics I ever remember reading were X-Men comics. When I was 7, 8 years old. Probably younger, but Wolverine was always my favorite. So, when he exploded, when he became the breakout character, I think, I thought, well, of course.
Right.
Why wouldn't he be?
Right.
but since then, I can go back and forth. I always loved Storm as a character. I always thought, well, when I wrote for Marvel for a little while, I did this book called Exiles. And
yeah.
I
Oh,
got
wow.
to,
Yeah.
Yeah. I got to yank out one of my kind of favorite, like, not even a D-list, like an E-list character called
Wow.
Mimic.
Mimic. Yeah.
Yeah. No. When I was a kid, I saw some old, like very old X-Men comics. I read up on the character. This character who could, copy, he had all the powers of all the X-Men. I thought, like, that's amazing. And I was like 12, 13 years old. And then jump ahead when I'm, 27, 28, and I get to write the X-Men. It's like, you know what? I get to do Exile. I said, I'm gonna reintroduce Mimic because I think he's awesome, and I'm gonna do it the way I want.
Great.
He's gonna have Wolverine's claws, and he's gonna be all covered in metal like Colossus, and he's gonna have something I always go back to is that all superhero comics are fan fiction.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, us professionals, it's finally we get to make it up, except it counts and we get paid for it, but it's all just the goofy stuff that we loved as a kid. Like now we get to do.
Absolutely. And I just to go back to the Red Hood thing, because I saw another interview of you, and you said something really cool. It was so cool as your inspiration for wanting to do the book is because you read Hush. And you saw the ending, and you were like, "This is so cool!" And then they baited and switched and said, "Oh no, that's Clayface." And I felt the same way. And for you to say, "Oh, I'm going to do something about it," it's so cool because, like, I love that as a writer when you're inspired by something great and wanted to do something even cooler. So I commend you for that, man. I really do.
Well, that's what I mean by fan fiction. I mean, right there, that is the example. Yeah. I am just a reader like everybody else. I'm reading Hush. And then we find out that Hush is Jason Todd. And again, I saw it. It's like, 100 miles of broken road. This is going to be awesome and terrible and sad. And, his greatest failure has come back. And he's a villain. And, it's going to be. And then it's like, it's Clayface. It's like, that's cool too. All right. But then, then like the music stopped and it was my turn. Like I'm saying, musical chairs, it's my turn. You get to write Batman. What do you want to do? It's like, I want to bring Jason Todd back. I thought that was a great idea. It's like, no, you really want to do it? Like, yeah, I really want to do it. Like, that was awesome.
Wow.
I really just saw the whole story. So again, for all you young people out there who are thinking about writing your own comics, someday, you'll have a crazy idea and you get to do it. That's the fun part.
It's crazy, because like on the family, on my dad's side of the family, they're nothing but artists. My cousin actually used to work for Marvel, like freelance for Marvel. His name was Sheldon Bryant. Yeah.
What do you do?
Well, I want to say he did some Black Panther stuff. I can't remember. But because I didn't meet him until later on in my life. You know what I mean?
Right.
And he showed me some of his artwork, and I was blown away because at the time I was reading Kingdom Come. And a lot of his artwork kind of reminded me of that. And I love Kingdom Come. That's a great book.
It's a beautiful book, yeah.
Man, I wanted to ask you about Juniper Lee because, oh my gosh, I was just like, wow, you did this too. You've done so many things. What was that experience like? And you work with Laura Jill Miller, who back in the day I had a crush on Give Me a Break. I thought she was so cute. What was that whole experience like?
That was an incredible blast. So for those playing at home, I did a show for Cartoon Network. It was called Life and Times of Juniper Lee. It ran for about 4 seasons, and it was a blast. I had one of my mentors. Her name is Linda Zemensky. She was the head of animation development at Cartoon Network, and I would check in with her now and again and say, like, got this half an idea, I got this thing, I got that, and then finally I came to her and said, like, I got this really neat idea that I want to do about this little girl fights monsters. So I pitched it to her as a graphic novel. I actually wrote I don't know, about 80 pages or something, like a script, but it was a graphic novel, and I drew it up, and she dug it, and then she took it to the other executives, and they dug it too, and then said, yeah, do you want to do a TV show? Like, yes, I do. I absolutely do.
Wow.
And it was the most fun I ever had. To be blunt, it was the most I ever worked with any other people. For me, I mean, I've come back to square one, where it's just me at my drafting table doing my thing. But To work with a crew of people to develop stories, to get to record the stories, to and Laura Jill Miller, who will live in my heart forever. She's the voice I hear in my head. She's the voice of Juniper, and that she was. I wouldn't say she's a find. I was just so thrilled when we were casting. And they sent me the voices. Just leapt out at me like, "Oh, that's her. That's completely
wow."
And I worked with
Phil Lamar and Tara Strong too, right?
Phil Lamar, Tara Strong, Kat Susi, Candy Milo. Who am I forgetting? Carlos Ellis Rocky.
Oh yeah.
Carlos, and like this is like the murderer's row of voice, animation, voice acting on television. The like 7 people that we had who were doing the voices on our show are pretty much like everybody who works on television. They do everything. So it was a blast.
It's crazy. And recently, Tara Strong did the voice of Mrs. Minutes on Loki.
I know it.
And it was so cool because, like, I always thought she never got her just desserts. So she's super talented, man.
Oh, and she's a superstar. She does, and she is everywhere and does everything. And an amazing. I can talk about Tara forever. We share a birthday, actually. We're both born on February 12th.
Cool.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, and Tara played. She's so versatile. She played the character Roger. She was playing an 11-year-old boy on our show.
Wow.
And she can do anything. And man, that recording room was like unbelievable. It was being a voice actor. It is some of the most fearless work you can imagine. They have no shame. Nothing embarrasses them. They just go for it, body and soul. And they had this entire like reservoir of voices they could dig into. It's like, I'm thinking something a little bit like Carlos Ellis Rocky. I said, Carlos, yeah. I think this guy kind of sounds a little bit like Al Pacino. He goes, Dog Day Afternoon, Al Pacino, or Godfather 3, Al Pacino. It's like,
wow.
Or Scent of a Woman. I go, oh no, actually, I think Dog Day Afternoon. He said, okay. And he does a really high, he just starts doing Al Pacino from Dog Day Afternoon. It's like, oh my God, just like that. And Tara was the same way. It's like, I kind of think Southern Belle, like old Southern Belle or sort of like, young Southern Belle. Do we mean like, like Bayou Southern Belle or sort of like aristocrat Southern? I was like, oh, like kind of like high-minded Georgia Southern Belle. And boom, there it is. It's just unbelievable. It's so much fun. I highly recommend it to anybody. Everybody should do their own animated series. It's a lot of fun.
Wow. Is that as far as voice acting is concerned, is that something that you ever thought about doing? You have a really distinct voice.
I would get to do 1 or 2 lines.
Really?
It's technically not legal, but what happened was that everything's been recorded. It's all been cast. It's all done. And we have a couple of random pieces of dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Like someone playing blackjack and saying, hit me. I would do that. Or someone
cool.
else would do that. And I'm talking out of school, but every show does it. Now and again, just a little bit here and there, a voice or 2 here and there. So yeah, I would have loved to have done it for sure.
That's awesome, dude. I wanted to ask you too, also about just as far as being a writer. Because I write, like I told you, I write as well. But what is like, as far as, because you were a creative Renaissance man, do you have any advice for people who really because every now and then, you might get writer's block, or you might get in a rut, or might be depressed, because I think a lot of creative people, go through depression sometimes, So what is your advice when it comes to that?
Oh man, I can go all day on this, but some of the simple advice is that, so everybody gets the big idea, right? You have that big idea for your story, whatever it is. And that's good. That's what it's got to be. And hopefully the big idea, and this is part 2, like 1, get the big idea. 2, hopefully it's something that you really love, not just something you think that will sell or someone will be interested in buying or anything. It's something you love, because if you're not invested in it, when it gets hard, you're not going to keep going. So you really got to love it. So even if it's not the idea that you think is like the $1 million idea, if you love it, that's the one to go with. Okay. And the third thing, think of an ending. Once you have your big idea that you love, think of how it ends.
Let me
because
write this down real quick.
yeah, go right ahead.
Think of an
Because
ending.
yeah, well, you know what? At some point, you're going to get stuck. At
Yeah.
some point, you're going to get stuck. But it's like going for a walk. If
Mm.
you do not know where you're going when you leave your house, you're going to walk for a while until you get tired and you turn around and go home. Don't go home. Know where you're going. Know where you're going to land. And in that, when you know where your story is going to end, you will finish it. And that's the important thing. You have to finish your first draft of whatever it might be. You know, the middle can kind of stink for a while and you'll come back and fix it. But once you have finished it,
Okay.
that is the biggest hurdle, getting that first draft done. And then you can go back and then you can fix it. And then you can be hard on yourself and then give it to other people to be hard on you too. But
Okay.
again, get that first draft done. Okay? Everything else is just noise and music and whatever and blah, blah, blah. So, you know, those are always my three biggest pieces of advice. There's a lot of nuance and things I can get into, but big idea, make sure you love it, you know, have an ending and finish that first draft. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are the four most important things.
That's great advice. I remember Sylvester Stallone said that because he wrote Rocky,
Yep.
and he said a lot of this, like, he just wrote. He said, and a lot of stuff that he first wrote was a bunch of crap, but he
Yep.
had to get to the crap before he got to the good stuff. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
when you said that, it made me think of that. So that's good, man. Because like I say, especially this, I wanted to ask you too, because the year 2020, as you know, the year 2020 is what it was. What is
Yeah.
something that that you learned about yourself and that you carried over to this year?
Well, lots of stuff, but um, I think as far as storytelling, um, I didn't realize how much I need to be out in the world
Mm.
to make stories. Um,
Oh yeah.
I was finishing up. I did basically one whole graphic novel through the pandemic. I wrote the first draft of another one uh, as well, and this one that I'm working on now, which is the ninth Hilo book. So the eighth one is totally done. That'll be
Okay.
coming out. That'll be coming out next February, this coming February. But this ninth one, this was hard, and I didn't know what it was, but until I had a chance to sort of like pull it apart. Like, why is this one so hard? It's like because this entire story happened during the pandemic. This is
Mm.
like from even from inception. The thinking about it. Like I didn't realize how important it was for me to get out of my head, be out in the world, be
Yeah.
around other people, and not writing my stories, doing everything but that. And when we were all locked up for so long, there was a huge element to it. I didn't realize how important it was. You know, I mean, it seems obvious, and that we all have to be out in the world and living and whatnot. But it's a little thing for like, this isn't working. Let me get out of here and I'll go sit in a coffee shop and write for a while. Like, this isn't working at all. Let me go for an
Mm.
incredibly long walk. Let me go catch up with some people, and then I'll get back to it. Um,
Yeah.
because I mean, they often say it. It's often said that a lot of times writing is not writing. That
Mm.
you got to think about it. And
Yeah.
so storytelling wise, it was hard. It was hard not being out there. I'm happier now that we're opening up things a little bit. I
Yeah.
know we're in this fourth wave and it's bad, but it's a little bit better. I And on the flip side of that, I will say that most of the world now knows what it is to work at home, like a lot of us have.
Mm.
I mean, I've been a work at home cat for a very, very long time, and when we started sheltering in place, I was explaining to my wife Pam and to my children, like, there's some things you need to do. Okay, for starters, you got to get up every day and you got to get dressed. You will not just roll out of bed in your pajamas or whatever the hell you're sleeping in and go to work. No, get up, get dressed, get yourself together, and you sit down and do it. You need workstations. You're not going to sit on the couch and do this. We're going to
Mm.
do this. Like, that's how productivity happens. You got to treat it like work.
Right.
And they did. I mean, and I wasn't the only one. I think a lot of people we're teaching these lessons. A lot of people have learned these lessons. I'm sure you did too.
Oh yeah, and going back to what you say and how I thought I don't know I thought I was more of an introvert, but like I guess I'm not. We do need people. Do need people.
Yeah.
If it's not. I mean, like you. If it ain't for I learned for just the conversation of just talking to other people or just getting certain vibes and energy. You know, I worked in retail for a long time, and one thing
Mm-hmm.
I learned about people is just that people are at their worst when they're hungry, when they're not feeling well, and so you learn a
Indeed.
lot from people.
Stay Puft
Is
Marketing
that
has
Stay
the
Puft?
best
Oh my
marketing.
God,
It is indeed.
you are the man. When I tell you I'm looking so forward to this new Ghostbusters film, man, I am so hyped. I love Ghostbusters, man, because to me, Ghostbusters is like the perfect blend of comedy and
Ghostbusters
sci-fi.
came out, and it was 100% the movie that my buddies and I just locked into and locked on. I mean, we probably saw it 3 or 4 times in the theater, before we, could afford to do that and had to get dropped off, you know, uh, and quoted it before. I mean, before people were quoting movies, it's just all we did. It is a part of my soul.
Yes,
So I'm so excited about Afterlife.
yeah,
I got so choked up in the last trailer. I don't know what it was about. I mean, in the sense that just the music swelling or just coming like I just got choked up. And when the narration comes in, call it fate, call it like
call it des-
call
dude.
it destiny. It's like yeah. So yes, Mr.
Uh,
Stay Puff.
dude, that's awesome. Like, if like I've always said this, Bill Murray's like one of my favorite actors. If he did nothing else but Peter Venkman, I would be okay with that. But he's done so many other good things, man. And he's
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I'm so hyped for that movie. You have no idea. Oh man. Real quick before you go, I have a
Yes.
question about Hilo. What is
Yeah. Fire
something
away.
that you hope that kids get from these books?
Oh man. Where to begin? I mean, Hilo came about because my son, who was 7 at the time, so this is going back uh, about 9 years. He wanted to read my Batman comics. And I had to tell him no, because it's like because you are 7, and they're like there's a lot of decapitations and bloodshed, and it's pretty serious, but it's also kind of intense. Uh,
Yeah.
so I wanted to get him a graphic novel series that he was going to dig, and I got him Jeff Smith's Bone, which I
Oh, okay.
highly
Yeah, I remember
recommend.
Bone.
Bone was amazing. So my son just totally flipped for it, just lost his mind. Now I know Jeff Smith, who does Bone, and I reached out to Jeff and said, "My son he just got it, lost his mind." And Jeff said, "Oh, all right, I'm gonna send you a couple of things." So he
Nice.
sent us a gigantic box of Bone merchandise. I mean everything. There was Bone T-shirts, hats, action figures, calendars, the whole thing. And my
Wow.
son, my son became a Bone super fan, lost his mind. And I kind of got jealous because I'm a cartoonist and I figured, I should be able to come up with a story that he likes as much as all ages story, And I don't mean like one just for kids. I mean for everybody, like an all ages story.
Oh yeah.
Really appealed to me.
Yeah.
So that's what I dove into with doing Hilo. And what I've been thrilled about is that kids really love it, which is just awesome. Uh, a lot of grown-ups dig it too. I mean, what I wanted the moms and dads, if they're sitting down with their kids and reading it, not wanted to like, oh my God, we got to read this again. I was hoping they were going to enjoy it too, and they have. Uh,
Yeah.
and the last sort of like wave that came in was was comic book readers who read my superhero stuff. Now they've begun to come around and get that like, oh no, it's not a kid series. It's like it's for kids. It's about kids, but
Right.
you know, it's got a lot of the superhero storytelling they're used to. So I hope kids, for one, I hope they sit down and when they read it, they get a fun story. Uh, and they can also see that, you know, I, I try to tell a story that's got a lot of action. It's got a lot of
Mm.
jokes, but I want to try to tell a story that's got a lot of heart too. Um, got a little bit of drama, a little bit of seriousness here and there. It gets pretty
Oh yeah.
sad here and
Yeah.
there as we get into it, as the story goes on. And it's a serialized story. it's an ongoing story, and I didn't. I mean, sir, I got to tell you, there is, you know, I've written stuff for a long time. Compares to kiddos when they are geeking out about your story, the way we geek out about superhero stories. You know, to get some little guy or gal coming up and they're getting into like the little stuff, like the way we will get into the little stuff about Batman or the X-Men or whatnot. And they want to know if this happened. When this happened here, you could do that. And what about her? And you left out this part here. And they're nerding out on something I came up with. And it's the greatest feeling. I highly recommend it to everybody. Get in there, make your own stuff, because makes your heart explode.
I was talking to Dante Bosco, who played Rufio and Hook, and he has a Monday Cinema Club, and I popped up on his show, and we were talking about the movie Hook, and I was telling him how like the table scene in Hook is really special to me because I look at it differently now because, you know, the part where he flings the food and it becomes real, I compare that to like when you're in the space when you're trying to make your dreams happen and you got to ignore what the outside world is telling you. You just have to go with it. And I feel like there's a certain resiliency that children have that adults should never lose. And I feel like in order to make your dreams come true, you have to do that. Like me, Dutch Delivery Show, I did it out of a pure leap of faith. My first person that I interviewed was Dawn Robinson. Like, just to even be talking to you, this doesn't seem real. And I feel like you gotta be that this ain't gonna happen. And I think that you have to dream. You gotta dream, right?
Oh, yeah. You gotta jump. You gotta say yes, and you gotta ask. I mean, it's like, you know, it's sort of like don't worry about hearing the no's. Don't worry about people telling you can't do that, because they will. Don't worry about that. It's going to happen. But when you keep chugging along, go do the crazy thing. Take the big leap, especially when you're young. Especially when you're young. You got go crazy, because you got less skin in the game. You know, when you're worrying about like where you're going to live or your kids or responsibilities or whatnot, you know, it's harder. But when you're young, you got to jump in with both feet, and also, you know, go after the things that you really want to do and that you love. Because again, I mean, just like, you know, coming up with a story that you love, pursuing something you love, that is what will keep you going. Honestly, I mean, I've worn a lot of different hats when it comes to storytelling. I mean, it's always been, you know, it's not like, you know, I used to be a professional soccer player or, you know, a chef or what. Like, no, I've just always made things up. That's always been my thing. Within that, I've done different stuff. You know, I did comic strips. I wrote comic books. You know, I wrote and drew comic books, did animated series. I've, you know, written for a bit of live action stuff here and there. But I think what I've always kind of hung on to is like, you know, if somebody asks me to do something, hey, good example, Bob Schreck of DC Comics. Okay. After he paid on me, we'd become friends, and he said, hey, you know, do you have any interest in writing superhero comics? It's like, yes. It's like, and I had to be honest with him, like, I've never done that before. I didn't want to tell him, like, I've never actually, like, really written anything before. Not like that. You know, I did Pedro on me, I did comic strips. And he just said, tell you what, write a script. I'm going to send you one. Write a script, and let me see what you got. And I wrote a script. He said, it's good. Okay. Give me an outline for like a whole story of it and do a couple more. And I did a couple more. And then after that, it was a big lesson in, you know, after that, like, hey, do you want to do an animated series? Yes. Yes, I do. You know? Do I know how to do it? No, I have no idea how to do that. But I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn by doing it.
Wow.
You know, because the worst thing that's going to happen is you'll get fired, or it'll get canceled, or this won't happen. Like, that's the worst thing that'll happen. I mean, worse than that is not doing it.
Absolutely.
That's, you know, much worse than failure is like never taking the shot. You know, you got to get in there. And by the way, you will fall on your face many, many times. You know, and I mean, I'm grateful now that the success that I'm getting now, and it sort of feels like this. I sort of feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is the
Okay.
work I'm supposed to be doing, the story I'm supposed to be doing. And it took me a long time to get here. It took like 20 plus years of doing different stuff to figure out like, oh, you know what? No, I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to like make up stories and draw them. These all ages kind of stories. This is me. This is who I
Yes.
really am. And, you know, I guess my first published work, like for real, was maybe when I was like 25, 26. And, you know, it was about, you know, in 2015 is when Hilo came out. It took a
Right.
long time for me to figure out what that story was going to be.
But like when you, that's great. But like it's crazy. Like when I watch the season of the Real World, I see your grind, and I remember Muhammad was like, "Man, Judd could be in his office for 3 hours." I mean, you were always grinding, man. How is he doing that? How is Pam doing? I'm sorry. How's Pam?
Well, wait a minute. For one, Mo always regretted that when he said like, I didn't mean 3 hours. I meant like, you know, I think I wanted to say like 12 hours. So like I was trying to. He said 3 hours makes it sound like you just went in there a little bit. You were in there all day. So Mo apologized for that when it aired. Mo's doing great. You know, he still lives in the Bay Area and he's doing terrific. He's married. He's got kids. He's a happy dude and a beautiful person.
Awesome.
Pam is great too. Pam literally right now is seeing. She's what time is it now? She's not quite home yet. She's in clinic. She's seeing patients. So
Awesome.
she is a doctor, doctor of internal medicine. So she's your everything doc. She's also a researcher.
Wow.
She fights big tobacco. She's the head of the Tobacco Document Research Library at UCSF, and she's doing great. We've got two beautiful kids. We're getting bigger every day. They just went back to in-person school on this past Monday.
Wow.
So life finds a way. So she's great. I'm very, very proud of her. I'm happy to share my life with her. We're very, very lucky in lots of ways, you know, starting with that we went and did this, what was supposed to be this stupid TV show, and which was my plan. Like, yeah, this is dumb. This would be fun. Could be on TV. Be cool. I guess I'll meet girls. It'll be fun, right? You know, and it wound up being, you know, actually way more emotional and important and changed my life in ways I didn't even think it would.
Absolutely, man. I mean, do you keep in contact with anybody else or no?
Yeah, keep in touch with Muhammad. Keep in touch with Corey Murphy, who's Corey Alfaro. Corey is she's also married and got two kiddos, and she's a teacher. She's doing great. We here and there keep in touch with a lot of the crew, the folks you don't see, folks who worked on the show, like Jonathan Murray, who's the producer of the show,
Right.
Mary Else Bunham, who was the other half of Bunham Murray. She passed away a number of years ago.
Okay.
But oh goodness, you know, what was interesting is that, I mean, a lot of folks don't know this. When you watch the show, there's a bunch of people who are filming us who we don't get to talk to. They're like kind of forbidden to have like actual real conversations with us. We talk about like small talk and pop culture, and yeah, the new Beastie Boys album came out, you know, when they're not filming us. But when it was over, you know, they had kind of lived through this experience with us. So we've kept in touch with a lot of them. Clay
That's
Newbill,
awesome.
who's the executive producer on Shark Tank,
Oh,
Matt
wow.
Kunitz, who, yeah, a lot of the folks who worked on our show 26 years ago, when they were very young, grew up and went on to produce all this other reality television. So,
Cool.
yeah.
That is so great, man. Man. It's such a pleasure talking to you, man. This is unbelievable to me. You have no idea, dude. Like when I tell you, man, because the Real World was really special because like the first season was good, and then the second season it just got better along the years, and it was important because like aside from Saturday morning cartoons, Ninja
Right.
Turtles, and Saved by the Bell, this is like the first show that I watched and that was serious, and it made me feel more, grown up. And glad you took the time to do this, man, because like I said, it's been a challenge trying to get people to come on. But I've been blessed since I've been doing this since December that I've had at least one person per month, and that's all I can ask for. And it's been a real pleasure to talk to you today, man, and I really appreciate your time.
Oh, so it was a blast. I really do
Thank you.
appreciate it. I love doing this. I feel very, very lucky that, you know, When I was a kid, I made things up and drew pictures while I half watched television. Now I'm 51 and I make things up and I draw pictures while I half watch television. That's my job. But with that, I also, I get to do stuff like this. I get to come on and meet people and talk about things I love, and it's practically the best part. I dig it. I really do. So thank you, sir. I appreciate you having me on here.
Thank you, man. One quick question. I'm so sorry.
Sure.
Who would you have cast in the Green Lantern movie? I mean, who would make a great Hal Jordan in your opinion? Because I know you worked on Green Lantern.
Oh, goodness. You know what? Well, for one, Ryan Reynolds was great. It wasn't a great movie. Let's just start there. Give props. I love Timothy Olyphant. He was on Justified. I mean, I pretty much would cast Timothy Olyphant in pretty much anything. I've been a fan of since Deadwood. That works for me. I don't know. For me, I think I'm probably a little more interested in Jon Stewart as a character. It's one of the reasons during my Green Lantern run, when we first started, he was paralyzed. He was in a wheelchair. So I got rid of that. And, gave his ability to walk back. It's like, I want Jon Stewart to be Green Lantern again. But did they cast Hal Jordan yet? I knew they're doing the TV series. Did they cast somebody yet?
No, I didn't even know they were doing a TV series.
They are. I think for HBO Max, I think they're going to do a Green Lantern TV series. I know they cast Guy Gardner. I don't remember the name of the actor. Now we're totally nerding out. But
man, Nathan Fillion, he will be a good choice as Hal Jordan.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, exactly. No, and you know what hurts is every time you come with a great actor, it's like, then they wait a little too long and like, oh, okay, now maybe an elder statesman, maybe Hal Jordan has he's been Green Lantern for like 10, 12 years and a younger cat's coming up and it's like, but I'm going to be very, very interested in seeing what they finally do with Green Lantern. I think they'll figure it out, and the CGI is where it needs to be. They can actually do the ring effects and make it look awesome, and it's going to be very exciting.
Definitely. I did reveal to Kyle Rayner that he killed his mom with the virus, the Stropolis. Yeah. That freaked me out. I was like, yo, this is hardcore, man. A lot of those DC characters, man, are just, man, they're great, man. I mean, I really had a different respect for the Green Lantern Corps because they need willpower in order to make their rings work, and they can't kill. I thought that was really great. Man, I'm so sorry. I don't.
I know we can do another hour on this.
Yes, sir. But thank you again for your time, and if you can, please tell Pam I said hello, and enjoy the rest of your day, man.
Thank you, sir. You be well. Thank you again for this.
Thank you. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Take care. Take care, everybody.